Entrepreneurs don't like to be like middle-class people. They don't want to be associated with W-2, but you're going to professionals that are treating you like a W-2 employee, and that's why you get W-2 results.
Wow. Well, burn.
Because you need to understand that accountants in almost every instance cannot be both an accountant who files your taxes and also think creatively around solving the tax problem. Well, this is the biggest problem entrepreneurs face. They're really good at making money, and then no one helps them keep it.
Wow.
I think there's 4 key people you should have on your wealth team. So you should have someone that is...
Welcome back to Problems to Profit. Guys, I'm excited for our guest today. There's going to be some magic in these minutes. Guys, I am very proud to have been able to squeeze this guy onto the show. He is not easy to get. He's one of the busiest entrepreneurs out there, and he's an entrepreneur in a way that can add massive value to you. Now, what we're gonna talk about is not that sexy, but you need to understand it, because when we make this sexy, you become rich. We're gonna talk about taxes. I know, it's a cuss word, but let's get it out of our system. Everybody put your fingers in your ears. Let's get rid of our fucking virgin ears. Use those cuss words. Taxes, taxes, taxes. My friend Justin Maxwell has what's called a virtual family office. There are all sorts of people out there that claim they do taxes. Most of them are just an accountant, just a CPA, just something like that, and they don't have the ability to help you. If you wait till the end of the show, you're gonna get all of Justin's information, and he's going to be able to help you, guide you, advise you. If you are a 6 or 7-figure entrepreneur, save you hundreds of thousands and or millions of dollars every single year. Very proactive. Everyone I know here at this event is using Justin. There's a reason. These are some of the top entrepreneurs on the planet. They all want to get in proximity with him. I tackled him. He was talking to 2 amazing ladies, and I went and grabbed him, pulled him away, and said, I want to put you on my show. People need to hear what you have. Join me. So, guys, without further ado, Justin, bro, welcome to Problems to Profit.
Yeah, thank you, Preston. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here.
Bro, so before we get into some of the magic of what you do, how you're gonna save people money, how you're gonna help them understand what's the difference between a cash flow business and an asset-driven business, before we hit any of the pertinent points that make you valuable, I like to always get people to understand what makes you you. Yeah. Can you give us a little bit of your story, your background, kind of where you began? Where did you start when you were growing up, dealing with challenges, facing life, and having all those problems that helped you learn and earn how to become the prophet you are today that's making the profit and bringing the profits back to them?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I want to actually mention something. You said this isn't a sexy topic. And when people hear me, they often will look at me and be like, well, that dude is very stoic, or that dude doesn't smile. But like, I can bring a very non-sexy topic like taxes and make it extremely sexy for people. So I want people to be engaged as they listen to this, because this is going to make or break their wealth in a massive way for them. So as I get into this, this is extremely sexy, and it should be seen as sexy because this is the secret sauce.
Justin, I have to pause you for a second. I need to know, are you flirting with me? Because I'm liking it a little bit.
A little too much.
Do we hold hands on the show?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, yeah.
Cool. All right. So give us a story, man. Like, tell us, where'd you come from?
So I'm from Salt Lake City. If you think of the stereotypical good boy, church-going, Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saint, Mormon boy, that is me. So if you look and think of that is the stereotypical person. Don't drink, don't smoke, never taken anything into my body, like just straight on person when it comes to religious practice in my youth. And it made me believe that you have to follow the norm. And the norm in society is you go to school, you get a job, you excel at that job at maximum level, and then someday you retire. So that was what I was going to do, because I think it was a side effect of the religion aspect in me, of giving me that this is what you do. And I'm very good at following rules. I'm very good when people tell me to do something, I'm going to go do it. So like that was what was imprinted on me, even if it was subconsciously in my youth.
That makes a lot of sense. There's a, not just in the Mormon religion, but in any highly orthodox religion, there's a lot of structures and doctrines that people follow that I think would probably be rather beneficial if you're going into a space where you have to deal with the IRS.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the start.
That's the youth. Yeah. So that was my past. So when I get to college, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I love math. I love statistics. I love ideas. I love thinking. I love learning, but I didn't know what profession I was going to choose, but it was not anywhere close to finance and it was not anywhere close to business, because in my mind, that was like, I'll tell, we visited Park City, Utah once when I was young. Park City, Utah is known for, it's one of the wealthiest cities in Utah. So you have lots of people with affluent. And I remember my parents like imprinted me then that wealth was something that is lucky, or it's something, it had a negative tone to it. So it imprinted on me that anything business, anything finance was not the direction I was going to go. So it has to be a more morally driven profession. And so I knew, so when I get to college, those were off the table, even though I love math and I comprehend it and can visualize things very well. And so I went to physical education because I love sports. I love physical activity. I love the idea of the science behind the human body and how do you make the physiological changes inside the body. But more importantly for me was, how do I make children get excited about that through movement? So I studied physical education. I was going to be a college professor in the physical education space, specifically around coaching and like how do we get children to buy into movement early on in life so that it sticks. When I was doing my master's degree, I discovered that I hate doing research. The process and the meticulousism and the red tape of doing actual physical research, I hate. I love reading research. I love reading data, comprehending it, but doing it was not what I enjoyed. And it made me realize that I had chosen a path that I was not going to continue in. But I'd been in school for, I don't know, 8 years, 7 years. I don't know what, school takes a long time. And I was married at that point and I couldn't go to my wife and say, well, I'm going to go back to school and figure out what else I'm going to do because I can't do this. Because that's college professors, they do research. That's their job, is to do research. And so I taught school instead in the meantime, but I knew that I wasn't going to be a school teacher forever because it was just a way to make money until I decided what else I was going to do. And that left me in a spot of searching, but for the first time in my life, I was not just searching for a profession, I was actually searching for a solution to raising and sustaining my family, because now I was thinking for myself and I knew that there were some other ways to make money. And my neighbor invited me to this real estate group. I went to the real estate group, and for the first time in my life, I was introduced to the idea that you can make your own money, entrepreneurism. Like the first time in my life, I'm 20, let's see, that was 2016. So I actually don't know the math on that. That was 9 years ago. So I was 26. First time in my life, I'm introduced to the idea that you can create value in this world and you can get compensated for it without someone else paying you to do it. I know that sounds outrageous.
How did that go over with some of the rigidity of what you were taught through your faith, some of probably what your parents were saying around like money is, if you have it, you're lucky, or which was kind of a presupposition of money is bad. Like,
right.
We don't have it, so therefore it's bad, right?
Yeah.
How did that go over?
So honestly, like I hid it from my family for a while. Like I didn't tell my parents. It feels weird to say that, but I didn't tell them that I was trying to pursue means of making money outside of school. I almost felt in my soul that I was doing something dirty or illegal, which sounds absolutely outrageous when I speak that, but that's what I felt. And so eventually that surpasses, because when you start hanging out with entrepreneurs, you start to realize there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And everyone listening to this probably doesn't feel that at all, but I felt that.
You know what,
in that
actually,
moment.
like I have worked with so many entrepreneurs that have so many issues with money. And unfortunately, like many religions will even come in and tell you money's evil. Can we swerve for a second?
Yeah.
And I'll give you like a money dispel, which not that you need it, but I think the listeners need it, because I've dealt with all sorts of people from all sorts of rigid structures in their background where they have some kind of presupposition that, rich people are evil or money is evil. And a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them come from a religious background. And I like to pose questions. And so you came from the Mormon faith. That's, branch of the Christian faith, right? So yeah. Jesus is involved?
Yes, correct.
Do you think Jesus was rich or poor?
Yeah, well, he was extremely rich and wealthy in knowledge, but poor as a physical, in monetary standards. But
let's challenge the idea, shall we?
Let's challenge it. I like
okay, so, and I actually learned this from a mentor named Jeremy Newsom, who we got to hang out a little bit with this week. He shared these facts with me, so I want to make sure I quote him. But he said, well, what were the gifts given to Jesus by the three wise men? And I answered, well, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And he said, do you know what the standard gift of gold was for a mediocre king in those days? I had no idea. I'd never heard of that. And I looked it up, and he told me it was 50 pounds. Then he asked me the question, if you were compelled by angels, as the Bible said, would you only deliver a standard gift, or would you maybe go bigger? But it matters not, because the standard gift is fairly large.
Yeah.
And that's just the gold. There was also frankincense and myrrh. And I was like, wow, I'd never thought about it this way. And then he doubled down. He was like, did those three wise men, those three magi, did they go straight to Jesus, or did they stop by Herod and meet with Herod? Maybe Herod got a little triggered at the size of the gifts and decided to kill all the firstborn sons? Do you think that's in the best interest of any leader? Would any leader want to kill the firstborn sons of all their followers?
Right.
That would be a little ridiculous, right? Way to turn the crowd against you, kill all their kids. So it must have been a big gift if he felt that threatened, right? But let's go further. Was there a lady in the good book that reached out and touched Jesus' robes and said, I'm touching your robes, and then got healed? That happened, right?
Yeah.
Did she have Facebook?
Yeah.
Did she have Instagram? How did she know who he was? Must have been some nice robes that were well-renowned and talked about, right? To compound the robes, were there Roman soldiers casting lots for his belongings at the base of the cross when he was crucified? Roman soldiers were rich. They were some of the wealthiest people in the area at that time in history. Why would they cast lots for shitty robes? What would be the point? And Judas's job in that same good book that we all love and read was to be the treasurer. As a good accounting type brain yourself, do you need a treasurer if you have no treasure?
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? Even the loaves and fishes, that miracle where he fed 5,000, even the loaves and fishes was an interesting story, because if you go back through, depending on which book you're reading, and if you study the concordance, you can find in several of the translations that the disciples actually asked him, Master, do you really want us to go into town and buy food for all these people? Why would they ask that question unless they had the money? And, that good old character kept saying these things like, be fruitful and multiply. That's in the book multiple times, right? Mm-hmm. Why would money not be included in that? What if religion had turned money into something that was evil so that you would just give it all to them? Just a question I would pose for anybody listening to maybe add a little bit of, not insinuation on what you should think, but maybe some questions to make you think about whether money is good or evil and whether you should be fruitful or multiply. And not to swerve, but
yeah.
I love a good story, and I love reading from my favorite book. So, sounds like you might too.
Yeah.
And sometimes the book ain't wrong, but the people that read it might be.
Yeah, I like that. I like it.
So anyway, sorry, continue. No. I love when people hit on points that not just you are having. I don't know anyone that started from nothing and came into something that didn't have that same fear.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just it was a weird feeling in my heart. I almost felt like I was abandoning my family, even though that's outrageous, but that was the feeling. And eventually that surpassed, and I eventually actually started making a little bit of money, doing a little bit of real estate fix and flipping, and I sold some seller finance notes, and I sold some just other activities, but it wasn't a business. You could call it a hobby. I was trying to make it a business, but it was making money as my first attempts to actually figure out making money on my own. I then attended an event where someone spoke. You may know him. He's actually quite known in the entrepreneurial space, but Garrett Gunderson spoke at the event, and Garrett confirmed the truth that I actually could do this. It echoed in my soul that I needed to double down on actually pursuing a career where I created my own value in the world. And so it turned from not just doing real estate, but to what do I actually want to do and what business and problem do I want to solve? So real estate was like the initiatory drug, that got me to the idea that I could do it. But it was Garrett's thought that actually made me double down and figure out what business am I going to start? And then what am I going to go do and go solve this problem? And because of all my learning in the past, I'm really good at learning. Like I can pick up on things very quickly, and I can digest information very quickly. I can understand data. I can see big pictures of what the data is telling me. And it just so happened that because Garrett was so tied into this very similar space that we're about to talk about today with money and combining and making sure your team is all together, that it unlocked in me that is the solution I'm going to solve for people. And it resonated really well with my ability to do math and numbers. And it just became one choice after another that I made that kept leading up to me sitting on this couch with you, where it was first choice was go to the real estate group. Second choice was go to the event with Garrett. Third choice was to make one call and just talk to someone about what did you do to get where you are. And then he let me start doing calls with him. And then we became business partners. And then it was another choice to go to an accounting firm and just learn what they're doing and sitting down and learning like, why are people not doing this strategy when it's very applicable to them? And then it's just one choice after the other to me eventually being here in this seat where I have created it's something that entrepreneurs don't get, and it's something that every entrepreneur needs.
We had some off camera talk, and the way you frame some of the things, I don't think it's that they don't get it. It's they don't know how to get it. They've not seen it. They've never had it explained. And entrepreneurs are so tuned into the problem they're solving for their client that they don't realize they're going to have a new one right down the road with the government, a new one right down the road with the private equity, a new one right down the road with, one of these different forces that might be bigger or larger than them that's going to come eat them. And I love how you frame things and explain things. And thank you, by the way, for sharing your story. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you kind of going through some of the pieces that made you the man you are, and that, you're one of the most analytical people I've met here. And that's exactly who I want looking at my financials, is the guy that's going to be able to see through the minutia. I want to solve problems. What makes it where you can kind of dive in and realize the problems there, and then how do you go about like explaining it? Can we kind of jump into some problems that you commonly see and then how you would explain them?
The biggest problem I see with entrepreneurs is they try to silo their wealth. And what I mean by that is that they try to have their accountant over here, their wealth manager here, their person that sold them insurance over here, and their business is over here. They're not viewing each and every one of those things the same thing, because they are actually the same thing. They're viewing them as siloed and segmented and distinct and different. And so when they do that, specifically when you start to increase your income, and when I say increase income, like this could be like you just barely started making over $200,000 a year in personal income. The business is generating and paying you $200,000 a year. Like at that point, from that point forward, every time you have a siloed team, your problems of keeping wealth will compound and compound, because you're going to pay too much in taxes. Your wealth manager is probably going to be in conflict with your accountant is saying. They're probably not going to tell you the same things your insurance person is saying, and neither of them are speaking with or thinking about how is this business actually going to become an asset someday.
I mean, I absolutely love how you frame that. I've never heard it termed that way, but siloing wealth is probably the perfect way to say it. And the way I would kind of reframe it into an entrepreneur's mind is, which member of your team at the office do you not want following the strategy you set? And when you're going to an expert or a set of 3 or 4 or 6 or 7 different experts, are they all following your strategy, or are you following their strategy because they're the dominant in the room, they're the expert? Yeah. Like, you're telling me that the thing that's made the entrepreneur successful, the very opposite of that thing, when they're doing it unintentionally, when they're going to their tax planning, when they're going to their wealth management, when they're going to all that, is exactly what's ruining them and preventing them from making it lasting wealth.
Yes, correct.
Wow. That is so easy to understand.
Yeah, they just have to switch it. They are a CEO and they're a leader of their businesses in every aspect. They control the vision, and then they let their people go do it. You need to do that same thing with your wealth team, and they need to be all on the same page, because they need to all know what your vision is and where you're going.
So when we say wealth team, what's a wealth team? Can you go over a little bit about what a wealth team is? Who are these people that are siloing stuff for these entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I think there's 4 key people you should have on your wealth team. It might be 5 because of this first one. So you should have someone that is in the I like to view this in terms of teams. So I want a tax team, and I want a leader of that tax team to be governing that. So in many cases, that's going to be an accountant, but I would propose to people that needs to be an accountant and a tax strategist, because you need to understand that accountants in almost every instance cannot be both an accountant who files your taxes and also think creatively around solving the tax problem. So it needs to, that usually is led by two people, but the accountant is the person that signs the tax return, and they're the ones that's the compliance officer. So they technically could be the leader, but you need someone else that's also involved with that as an authority figure amongst that department or that team.
I like that. So you're going to have two leadership roles in a way. Like one, obviously the CPA is going to take liability for signing on the taxes. So there's leadership in taking liability and being willing to fight for what you've helped somebody do. Like that's the CPA's job. But there's also leadership in putting together a strategy, and there's not one strategy in taxation.
Yes,
like how many are there? Like millions, thousands?
There's so many different combinations, and it changes from year to year because your cash flow changes and your situation changes. And are you exiting? Are you coming up? Or you buying another business? Like it changes so much. But you need someone that's thinking strategically versus thinking around the analog numbers and putting it on the tax return.
Are you on cash accounting? Are you on accrual accounting? Could you switch from cash accounting to accrual accounting to get some savings one year or not?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many hacks and so many tactics that I've learned over the year that now seem like relatively simple things that, I mean, nobody talked to me about this when I was starting out. Like I've probably been in business 20 years. I think I started talking about it 5 years ago. You know what? I need to talk a little shit to you, bro. Like, where have you been all my life? What the f, Justin?
Well, this is the biggest problem entrepreneurs face. They're really good at making money, and then no one helps them keep it.
Yeah. I think the vast majority of my wealth was generated in the last 5 years when I started having these conversations.
And the other thing I like to make it even sting a little bit more is entrepreneurs don't like to be like middle-class people. They don't want to be associated with W-2, but you're going to professionals that are treating you like a W-2 employee. And that's why you get W-2 results.
Wow. Ow. Well, burn. Okay. So guys, if you're watching this show, he just said that you're very smart, but you're doing something stupid. There's only two sources of pain, guys. Like there is ignorance and there is stupidity. If you are ignorant and you do something wrong, it's okay. Learn from it. Go backwards, okay? Back up after you've learned from it, after you've felt the pain, and do it differently next time, okay? At least you won't make the same mistake twice. May not be right the next time, but at least you won't make the same mistake twice. And you keep, editing the plan, eventually you will be right. Stupidity, on the other hand, unlike ignorance, it's like, hey, I did something that hurt. You know what? I remember that. I'll do it again. Like, don't be that guy. You literally just had a bomb dropped in your life, and if you're an entrepreneur doing 6, 7, 8, 9 figures, but you're doing things that are W-2 style, you're gonna get W-2 results.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so we got the tax team. That's number one. We got 3 more of these guys.
Yeah, and then I call this the wealth management team or the investment team. So they are going to help you build your wealth outside of your business. I like the term outside of your business because your business is a tool. The third one is that I like to have, I want you to have someone helping you actually make your business an asset. So many entrepreneurs are making their business income sources, which is great. It makes you a ton of money. You'll make a ton of money in your life, but it's not sellable and it's not going to get value on the end. 80% of businesses never sell. And so that's because 80% of businesses don't actually make their business a valuable tool. So have someone that's actually guiding you on how do I make my business as a part of my overall portfolio. So I have the wealth outside my business being created, but I'm also creating the wealth inside my business. And you need someone to help you do that because what you're doing right now is probably not actually making it a valuable asset. It's a valuable income source, but those two things are not the same.
Wow. Okay. And we could probably do an entire episode on the difference between an asset business and an income business. And by the way, like I want to frame this, like an asset business still generates income.
Yes, it absolutely, and you'll make a ton of money. It actually probably make you more money if you make it into an asset business.
Yeah. We're going to have you back to talk about that because I know you're on a rush schedule today and I want to make sure that we get through this, but like that would be a beautiful episode too that we're going to have to hit. So okay, we have tax team and we have wealth management team.
Yep.
Who's our number 3?
The 3 is the business team.
The business team. Okay.
Making your business into an asset team.
So kind of the business asset team.
Correct. And then last team is protection. So how do we protect all of the wealth that is being created, all the wealth that is being generated? So that's the legal protections, that's the contracts, that's the insurance, that's the cybersecurity stuff. Most entrepreneurs forget is that they're so focused on making money that they ignore their protections. And so many people, I have so many stories of entrepreneurs that have made millions of dollars and lost millions of dollars because they haven't put protections in place. And it's been one event or a combination of events that destroyed their wealth in an instant. And then they have to keep rebuilding. So it's just a cycle, make a lot of money, lose a lot of money, make a lot of money, lose a lot of money. So the protection team's goal is to put up a shield in front of everything and work in collaboration with the wealth management, the assets, the tax team, so that they all know that we're allocating dollars to something that's going to protect us in the future, so that when those events happen, because you don't know what event it's going to be, but there's going to be an event, you will be protected.
Okay, so, and all of these things that we're looking at, that we're trying to underwrite and understand as an entrepreneur, wealth team, tax team, business asset team, protection team, I don't think it's that any accountant out there that's not providing these things doesn't want to help or doesn't want to add value. I think it's probably just they don't have the resources for that. You were able to build an organization that has the resources to bring all of these different things into one house. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. So yeah, and again, it's not that accountants are crappy people or bad at what they do. They do their job. It's just that they're doing their job for W-2 people. 90% of the population doesn't need tax strategy. So that produces most accountants that's who they serve. They're not servicing people. Most of their clients, you're their top dog. You're making the most money out of them, and they treat you just like they treat everyone else, but they're doing their job for the W-2 person.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, you mentioned something else offline before the show, and I mean, I know you got to get out of here, but I want to pull a little bit more out of you if I can, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 more minutes of your time, just to get a few last pieces. You also mentioned another threat that a lot of entrepreneurs face in dealing with private equities and organizations that may understand more about their business model than them when they're doing exits or when they're raising capital or things like that.
So I actually talked to someone here. They're in the middle of an exit right now. And well, they've actually already sold the private equity, but he told me an interesting story. So private equity is going to give you 3 things. You're not going to get all your cash up front. They're going to give you cash up front, then they're going to give you an earnout, and then they're going to give you some upside because they're going to then sell their portfolio to someone else, and they'll give you upside in that parent company. But is what they do when they come into you as a founder, you have this great product, you have this great business, you think it's so great that private equity is attracted to you, but all they do is they come in and they just look for everything that's wrong and disorganized with you, and they just ding it. And then they're going to be able to fix that very quickly. So they'll lower your price, and then they fix it really quickly, and that helps their ROI come up very quickly. So if you as the entrepreneur know what the private equity company is going to do before they do it, they can't ding you, and you'll get your maximum value instead. And doing what we're talking about here by creating this team and this structure, everything will be built in a way that you're going to know that you can demand top dollar versus private equity taking it down. And you're the one commanding the negotiation versus in almost every instance, private equity is the one that takes and determines what the price and value is going to be.
I love all of this, and I really want to have you back. I want to also respect your time, Justin, and I'm so grateful that you've come on. But I would like people to be able to get that availability of you. Do you have a website? Do you have a number where people can reach out? Is there any way that if people have questions, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to look at this episode and they're going to say, well, shoot, what do I do? Do I go put these together? I mean, maybe I can become my own CEO, but and you're the heart-centered type that whether you work with them or not, you'd guide them in the right direction. And I think probably you could, I know you're busy, but can you take on a few more clients?
Yeah, we can take on more people. And the whole point of our operation is to be Like, we're going to create this solution for entrepreneurs in a way that our name is known in just as much confidence as QuickBooks or TurboTax. Like, you'll be able to know that that's who we are. So that's what we're building to. So we're going to create that for you. But we'd love to offer just that we can do a complimentary at our expense review of your taxes or of your wealth team. We'll talk about the different ways that you can build this. Like, you can either do it on your own, or we already have it built and you can utilize our services. But the best way to get access to me is there's 3 options. So you can go to www.biglifefinancial.com/problems to profits, or you can just text or call me at 801-882-1377, or I'm extremely active on LinkedIn, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn and we can have a conversation, then move it into a phone call if you desire.
Wow. Guys, thank you for watching today. Justin you might have performed a miracle, bro. Like, I don't know if you know this, but like, at least in the Catholic faith, you need 3 for sainthood. I think you have 1 down. He made taxes sexy. Like, he literally brought in a way to turn something that we all think is a dirty word, taxes, and combine it with wealth management, turning your business into an asset, creating financial protections, and all of those like big, crazy words really just mean you're helping them set up their whole life, not just their 1-year budget and their next year's opportunity. So, bro, thank you so much for coming on to Problems to Profit.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm grateful for the opportunity. And again, if you need, even if we don't work together, like, just reach out and I'll look at your situation and I'll tell you, go do this or go hire this person. You need to do this strategy. I'll make it valuable for you.
I love that about you, bro. You'll have an amazing day on purpose.